with Gina.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, I'd love to start at the top of the screen, but that is not going to happen just this moment. So we're gonna start with something I wasn't going to start with, but I'm sure you've probably heard former V8 supercars racer Renee Gracie. Does that name sound familiar?
V8 supercars.
She
racer.
is Australian, I believe.
Australian,
I don't know if
yeah.
her name has ever rung a bell.
That's a Mad Max thing because V8 series and V8 supercars, not an American thing. It's an Australian thing. And
yes.
Yes. And who was I thinking of? Eric Bana.
I was like, Bana was really into that shit.
Right. And it's a big thing in Australia. Yeah, it's a kind of a cultural thing.
Yeah, there she is.
And that's why there was a big deal. Like that's that whole Mad Max thing with his crazy car and the big V8 and whatever. Yes, there she is.
Well, she's a good-looking gal, and she received a significant financial windfall because she just went public with a new career in pornography. Oh. So during an exclusive interview with the Daily Telegraph, Gracie revealed she walked away from the sport because she didn't earn any money doing it.
She wobbled away from the sport.
And with an ice pack. And after working in an auto shop, I mean, this is the dream girl here, she decided to cash in on her hotness, join this adult subscription site called OnlyFans.com. She's 25. She's making a ton. She's basically selling photos and videos for $9 a month, but that adds up. They say,
I got to say this. Yeah. There's all these stories going around now that a lot of women are making ends meet now with the whole quarantine and lockdown and the economy and everything, saying, doing a version of this, kind of virtually selling their body. Probably not a good thing, but I never really judge because if someone, if I was 24, if you got hold of me, you're 24 and someone's like, hey, Adam, I want to take a picture of your scrotum sack and I'll give you $10. I'd be like, okay, sounds good.
Half up front.
Yeah. Or I just want
Half up front.
I should just pull down your gym shorts and hang your cock and balls out and then take a picture and then I'll send you the $10 and you send me. I would have been like, okay, fine. Sounds good. Sounds better, better than cleaning carpets.
You can't really judge in that case.
I don't, whenever they have these people, they're like, he tried to get a Samsonite filled with fentanyl across the Mexican border, or whatever. I'm like, yeah, if you would have offered me $20,000 when I was 22 to do something stupid, I would have tried it.
Sure.
Probably.
You ever see the movie Maria Full of Grace? I'm sure Brian has.
That's not all she was full of.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of heroin balloons. So Renee is on track to make about $750,000 this year.
Wow.
From subscribers. So might not be a bad path. $750.
Gina, I know you got 2 jobs already.
Yeah, but
this has been
well, look,
floated.
Income's income.
Yeah. Hey, I know. And this has been floated not by my fiance, but in previous years, I've had this conversation with people and I can't do it. And that's why I used to be, and I was a nude model in college. I have standards because I only did it for the sketch classes and like pencil drawing. I wouldn't do it for the painting classes because that was too realistic looking. So it just kind of freaked me out. So, and I think those days are behind me. I don't know that anyone's gunning for those photos at this point.
Gina,
that's true.
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but when I close my eyes, I don't see in charcoal. I see in living color.
Oh, thank you very much.
Just putting it out there.
Something to think about.
Something to definitely think about.
Okay, well,
hold on. Let me close my eyes.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
That ain't charcoal. Oh, no. Oh, that's 4K right there, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right, sorry. I'll open my eyes again. Yeah.
That's amazing. Lucky guy.
Well, maybe we should do some sort of exchange thing. Like maybe there's a porn star in Australia who's struggling, but who can drive the wheels off a Mustang. And, we get her a ride in that V8. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good idea. Yeah. It's a great idea. I've been sent this numerous times by listeners that there's this porn star that looks like me and they connected us on Twitter. I would have to dig for it, but she seems lovely. And we do kind of look alike. And so I do take it as a compliment. But some listener said, "Oh, Gina, you look just like blah, blah, blah." And they connected us. And she goes, "Oh, Gina sounds lovely." I go, "Well, you're quite attractive. So this is quite a compliment." So yeah, maybe we can all do some swapping. You can have a new news girl and I could go into the porn industry.
I had, look, if you go into the porn industry, we're just going to lop off the news because I'm going to need to shorten the show so I can get home and do my research. But the point is this. Let me close my eyes again. All right, so here's me point. This chick's got a lot of thigh and upper leg tattoos.
Yeah,
and
she does.
I don't know when that came into vogue, but I started noticing that when I was out on the road last weekend, and I don't know that it's a good thing. I don't think that's ever really helped. And especially then when they're wearing the shorts and you see the weird stuff like dripping down underneath the shorts on the thigh. I don't find that attractive. Do we find that attractive?
It's not for me.
No. I think it's more of a rebellious thing.
Yeah, I don't think I'm the target audience.
I'm seeing more of the thigh tats on the women and more of the calf tats on the dudes, and it just don't feel like it's helping their case.
Is that like the bandana in the back pocket amongst a certain community? You know, you get the tattoos in a certain place, the thigh and the calf. You're like,
you're down for anal.
We are meant to be together, as opposed to the dance where it's like, oh, what are you into?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like the sort of tongue piercing says open for oral business. Maybe the thigh tats. Maybe that means something. I usually just means you're angry at your dad. That's what I figured out. Yes.
Ooh, you know what would be the ultimate conundrum? Having a thigh tattoo of a portrait of your beloved father. Very confusing.
Yeah, and distracting. Because that limits your positions, you know what I mean?
That's very true. Yeah, sure.
You couldn't get in a position where you're staring at the stepdad, especially if
dear old dad.
Especially if you drew him or dear old dad, if you drew him in a sort of judgmental way. You know what I mean? Like
right, arms folded.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Natalia if she'll get a tattoo of me with my arms folded and one eyebrow raised. You know, sort of going,
You could go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. So Ron Pearlman, he is feisty on Twitter. I think he might be the other side's James Woods lately, the way he's been tweeting. He wants to fight Ted Cruz for $50,000. So he and the Texas senator have already duked it out online. I have all the tweets. After Perelman called out politician Matt Gaetz for criticizing U.S. soccer teams for repealing a policy that required players to stand for the national anthem, Cruz joined in after Perelman told Gaetz that he's the second ugliest politician working after Ohio Representative Jim Jordan. So that was fighting words to Cruz. Cruz then tweeted, and I quote here, can you actually put it up? Cruz tweeted, "Listen, Hellboy, you talk good game when you've got Hollywood makeup and stuntmen, but I'll bet $10,000 to the non-political charity of your choice that you couldn't last 5 minutes in a wrestling ring with Jim Jordan without getting pinned. You up for it, or does your publicist say it's too risky?"
You challenge him to a fight with another guy.
Okay, so that comes up. So then the next tweet. So Ron had feelings about that. He had some thoughts. Let's see. I tell you what, Teddy boy. Oh, because he's talking about a tweet before that said, "You're basically offering a guy to fight me who's probably asleep right now. That's not really a fair thing to do." And he says, "I tell you what, Teddy boy, since mentioning Jim Jordan is problematic, why don't we say fuck him and just you and me? I'll give $50,000 to Black Lives Matter and you can keep payer money you were thinking of spending." Ted says,
all the taxpayer money.
Yeah, sorry, it's in front of my screen here. There we go. Ted Cruz says, "I get it. You're rich, but apparently soft. You sure seemed something that Brian can see that I can't. To wrestle Jordan, whom you keep insulting. Can't take the heat. Need to get a manicure." So
Jesus
these are our
Christ.
politicians and our actors and who are of a certain age. And they're really going for it. So Ron then added, "Let's get back to business, Ted. Jim Jordan's too easy, just a little bitch. But you, Teddy, you talk shit about New York every chance you get. My hometown. It's personal. Let's go, mofo!"
Wait, who added that one?
Ron Pearlman.
Oh, Ron didn't. That was yeah, I guess 57 is the new 13. Mm-hmm. I thought 40 was like the new 20, but evidently there's a bigger chasm here. It's funny. Yeah. I'd heard a couple of things about it, but not too much. But I always can kind of tell. I always can tell who's telling the story and what the story is, because you can tell a lot by the publication. You know if they're right or if they're left by the pictures they choose of the two guys that are fighting. Sure. So I just saw it online, and I saw a picture of Perelman where he looked like a stud, and then I saw Matt Gaetz where he's like 30 pounds heavier than he is now, and I'm like, oh, whoever this is, I get where they're coming from. You can learn a lot by the picture. You know, if they
absolutely
there's the picture of Trump looking all weird, and then there's the Trump of him. There's one of him looking noble, like, and whatever you'll know everything you need to know about whatever the news outlet is by which picture of whomever they choose to put in their story.
You're absolutely right. And speaking of that, I couldn't not go down the comment thread rabbit hole for this. And many people posted the picture of, wasn't it Trump or someone from the Trump campaign put a picture of Ted Cruz's wife and Trump's wife. So it was Melania versus Ted Cruz's wife. Just an abysmal picture of Mrs. Cruz and the most flattering, angelic, sexy, smoldering picture of Melania. So it's hard to let Ted forget that happened. And he's quite over that now.
Well, he played Jimmy in a basketball game 2 years ago. Father's Day was right when they played. I remember the day before, must have been the day before Father's Day, because Father's Day...
Didn't you have to take early?
No. Here's what happened. God damn it. I was just thinking about this stupid Father's Day, which is coming up in a few days, and there's no more softball game over at... God damn it. That's fun in the sun.
Did you used to play UCLA's field?
Yeah, we played at the girls' field.
Pretty
Jimmy
sweet.
put that whole thing together. So the basketball game had to be the day before, because I showed up at the Father's Day game, which is obviously a Sunday at UCLA, and Jimmy throws the whole thing. And I was like, where's Jimmy? And they're like, he can't walk. He's at home. He's like so goddamn sore that he just literally can't move. And he was just at home the entire time. Yeah, it was the weekend of the Father's Day 2018. So that was the last celebrity politician physical challenge.
Throwdown.
Maybe we should just set up an obstacle course and just vote on bills based on who finishes the obstacle course.
Double dare,
first.
you got to get the flag out of the big ice cream sundae.
Well, I got to tell you,
Cory Booker's like, my time has come.
That's right. They used to have the Playmate Olympics back once a year. They'd have the Christmas issue for Playboy. The big watershed issues for Playboy was they would do the Christmas issue once a year. It was a big, thick one. It was great. And then maybe once a year or maybe once every few years, they do the Playmate Olympics. And they had the whole obstacle course and everything set up, and Bill Cosby would be up there with his cigar, judging everything. And I don't know, I wouldn't mind seeing AOC hit that obstacle course. I'd definitely watch that.
Did any of the girls ever seem particularly sluggish when he was hosting?
It's a good point.
Gina,
Yeah.
I was wondering.
Yeah, he was feeding them performance-enhancing drugs. They're not as good at calling 911 and shooing me away with the.
That's right.
With my juicing. I think it's so funny if you find any of those old pictures, Max, I've had of like Playboy Olympics or the roller, disco roller rink where they'd take the tennis court and pull down the net and have them all skating around. It's always, and celebrity Bill Cosby's doing the guest commentary. It was like, I used to look at it when I was 14 going, God, that's so cool. The Cos is up there and he's volunteered to use his comedy styling. Yeah, he's got
what a mensch.
Yeah, I mean, doing an Olympic thing and having the number one comedian in the world like come out there and add the color commentary to it. Like, awesome. But now we all know he was there for the after party, right?
It was entirely his pleasure.
The Playmate Olympics had gone away by my era, Adam, but the college issue was the one.
Oh, yeah, that was a good.
That was
a good one too. If you can find anything with Bill Cosby and Playboy and Roller Boogie or Playboy Olympics. And also, I saw a tweet that you sent about the grotto getting busted up.
Getting blotto in the grotto is no-mo. It's gone. Well, there's an aerial shot.
I want to talk about that
areola shot
in a second. First, I want to. Yeah, are they tearing down the Playboy Mansion? Are they taking the whole thing down? Or are they just taking the grotto down?
I'm just going to read you. I'm going to read you the tweet by a guy named Chris Christie, not the one you're thinking of, from ABC7. The grotto is gone. As you can see in these photos, Playboy Mansion is totally unrecognizable as top to bottom renovations continue at the late Hugh Hefner's famous former residence. I sent Chris and Kaylin the pictures, but just to give you an idea of the construction. And then there's one more. Some major construction going on in the back, it looks like.
Chris will find it. But isn't the grotto considered a historical jizz mark?
It should be. Yeah, we'll look into that.
A historical job.
Are they getting rid of like all the monkey cages and flamingo ponds? That sucks.
Yeah, it looks like they're really tearing up that whole plot of land, but you'll be able to see it better. So speaking of Jimmy, some big Jimmy Kimmel news. He is returning to host the 72nd Emmy Awards, and this time also executive producing the show on ABC. That's according to Deadline. The host of ABC's late night talk show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, returns for the third time. Not clear whether this year's Emmys, which are set to take place on September 20th, will be live in person or virtual. No way to know yet.
What's the date? September what?
September 20th. Sunday, September 20th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you'll probably be getting some emails in the next week or so. They will announce the nominations on July 28th. And this is going to be Jimmy's third time, right? Third time hosting.
Well, he did the Emmys first, I think twice. Yeah. And then he did the Oscars twice.
2016, yeah. And so whatever it's going to be, whatever format it's going to be in, he's hosting and producing this year.
I'm trying to think of what. So it's funny. I just went through this thing, which is we were submitting Uppity, our movie, to be submitted for an Emmy. They had on their website, because the whole COVID-19 thing screwed up everyone's schedule. They had a date on their website which said you must submit by July 1st or whatever. Then we went to submit the other day, and then they said, oh, you're past the lock-off date, which they got wrong on their website. And we've been saying, sort of negotiating with them, saying, hey, your website had the wrong date on it. And they're like, yeah, but what's done is done, and we're not taking any more submissions. And so Nate immediately, this literally all happened today. So Nate's like, well, call Jimmy and tell him to put it in, and I'm like, I don't think it works that way.
But I think that's his department.
A weird piece of timing that I literally I wake up this morning, it's like Jimmy's producing the Emmys and he's hosting the Emmys, and then 10 minutes later, Nate's like, we can't get into the Emmys because the date was wrong on their website. All right, Max Panic, clean up your screen here, please. And I'll tell you about Playboy's Roller Disco and Pajama Party was from 1979. Did Bill host it?
He was just one of the people that were there. It was actually hosted by Richard Dawson.
Richard Dawson. Oh, he loved the ladies, too.
He loved the ladies.
And do you have pictures of him standing around there?
He's like goofing off in the tennis court.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, and then other people in obviously Hugh Hefner, James Caan, Chuck Mangione, Waylon Flowers.
Waylon and Madam.
Dorothy Stratton.
There's got the cigar. Let me tell you something, man. Pre-AIDS, mid-coke, people. The best. You don't think these people are having a good-ass time playing tennis without all the AIDS and the coke was flowing? Well, they actually filmed it. I was just looking for the magazine version of it. The magazine, so they have pictures of it from online?
There's like a DVD, but I'm not seeing...
There's no, never know the internet
Get
works.
it?
What about the Olympics? They have the Bunny Olympics. How many years they do the Bunny Olympics?
I think of the Playmate Playoffs. Is that the same thing?
Probably. What year was it?
Let me check.
I think it would have. I think it was called the Bunny Olympics, but maybe it was.
They were allowed to use the word Olympic.
I doubt very much they were allowed to use it.
Yeah, maybe it's the Playmate Playoffs, and we just called it the Bunny Olympics. That would have been late 70s.
Yeah,
early
Google
80s.
Bunny Olympics. It's just a bunch of rabbits doing
Oh, really?
random feats. Yeah, let me.
Actual bunnies.
Sad state. Sorry, Gina.
Hey,
Continue.
Yeah, no, Adam, I was just thinking about this whole thing you're talking about with the cutoff date. This is not the year to tell somebody who produced a movie that's being featured on the Black Lives Matter genre tab of Netflix, we screwed up and we don't care and we won't take your submission. This is really not the time for them to do that. I'm just saying.
I agree with you, Gina, but
because it's not only is it an important movie, but that is not going to look good for them.
Yeah, well, there's a part of me that would like to convey that. It'd be nice to be nominated. We probably would get a nomination if we could submit it, but and again, their website was wrong. They should be cutting everyone slack this year because of all the movement and all the
years.
Right. Yeah, but
well, that's like a tag on a sweater saying $25, and you get up there and they say, "Oh, it's $45. We forgot." Like, no, sorry, it's on the tag.
Right. Well, we have like a screenshot of their website with the date on it, which was sent to me by Nate. But I don't know. I'm sure it'll never work out, but we'll continue to try. Sorry.
All right. Well, coronavirus testing of more than 1,300 people who protested Minnesota's Twin Cities after the death of George Floyd is showing very few new positive cases, according to the report. So health officials across the country have expressed fear of these mass protests, wondering what it's going to do to the pandemic. But so far, doesn't look like much. Minnesota health officials are conducting coronavirus tests for protesters in Minneapolis and in St. Paul. And so far, more than 3,300 people have shown up to be tested. That number, 40%, or about 1,300 of them, have gotten their results back. And the paper reported that of that number, about 1.4% tested positive for the virus. 1.4%.
Playmate Olympics, as I call it, 83 to 86, this is Max Spada.
Yeah, those are the years I'm seeing.
I remember it a little earlier, but that could be in there. And it's like an obstacle course and... Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I put it on not sharing the screen because we put this up on YouTube, and I don't want to...
You don't want to offend anybody? Yeah.
It's censored.
Yeah. Hot chicks. They're basically doing the obstacle course that Al-Qaeda does, except for they're in bikinis. And they
scale walls in bikinis?
They look hot. And, oh, yeah. I remember... It was like the greatest. I remember being 20 or 18 or whatever, just going, this is the greatest. That's the greatest. the Playboy Mansion. You want to talk about an era. I mean, imagine Hugh Hefner's just sitting there in his apartment with his first wife in somewhere outside of Chicago, I guess. And he's like, I got an idea for a magazine. And I guess he goes and gets... licenses the pictures of Marilyn Monroe. And I don't know what he paid for those, but, it's like when you hear those stories about what they paid for the first Super Bowl, to run the TV rights, to run the first Super Bowl, or the rights to run Marilyn Monroe's pictures. I guess he buys them off the photographer or something, and he starts the magazine, and he runs that. And then they have the Chicago Mansion, which sounded cool in its own way because it was like indoor pool, and he'd have Miles Davis in there playing the horn, and everyone would be gathered around smoking. What a time. Then he comes out here and buys all this land on Holmby Hills and builds this crazy thing with peacocks running around and
monkeys
and throwing parties. That guy did it right. I got to tell you, man. And that's it. No more him, right? I mean, that'll be that. Not in this
imitations,
country.
but no, not authentic versions.
No, but people aren't standing for that.
People will be sued. I mean,
Yeah.
you won't be able to run. That's no business model. There.
What are they doing?
Playmate play. They're doing the tug
Shut
of
up,
war.
Gina.
They got to do the obstacle course.
Log jam.
It's awesome, man.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. All right. What else you got, Gina Grant?
Okay. So turns out protesting's safe. Jizmac DeGusha. He showed up to the Robert E. Lee statue in Richmond, Virginia over the weekend as a result of a petition to replace the statue of the Confederate general and the late Guar frontman Oderus Urungus. So Jizmac is in Guar. I'm sure you know that. When CNN originally shared the story of the petition, it had less than 100 signatures. I just checked it, and it has about 50,000 signatures, which prompted a visit to the monument by Jizmac himself. Here's a clip of that visit.
It's looking pretty great right now. Looking great.
Hey, I think you're the one going on top, aren't you?
There's a petition to put Guar on that horse instead of Robert E. Lee. I strongly encourage that everyone sign that petition online. Thank you, sir. Fuck that guy.
Strong words.
Yeah, no,
Guar's
look.
going political.
Seemed like just yesterday we're listening to John Cougar Mellencamp make a statement about the bankers and the farmers, and now we got a guy dressed up with fucking styrofoam yelling, fuck that guy. That's today's music, kids. Didn't one of the Guar guys die?
Yeah, Oderus Urungus.
He's the one who died?
I think so. I think that's sort of the point they're making, that he was the front man and they wanted him up there to honor him.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And my apologies if I got that wrong, but I think that's the point.
Oh, okay.
And it should be noted that Virginia Governor Ralph Northam said he does plan on taking the statue down, but no comments on putting Guar up.
You know, it's weird is we are so crazy safety oriented, right? So, you know, if you said, I'm going to just take my jet ski and I'm going to drive it down to Santa Monica and I'm just going to unload the jet ski at the shore, they'd be like, no way, too dangerous. Or even if you wanted to ride your jet ski and have an open beer or something like that, too dangerous. Everything is way, way, way too dangerous. But when it comes to tearing down statues, OSHA is nowhere to be found because you got a bunch of fucked
Any
up.
means necessary.
You got people, and they got like a tow rope on the guy's head, and they've tied it around the bumper of a Prius, and there's a guy standing on top of it, swinging a skateboard at it, and it's 2 tons of bronze, and there's a whole crowd that's underneath it, and it's like, of course that fucking thing's going to come down and crush somebody.
It did.
Yes, it did.
Like one of them, yeah.
Meaning, like if you want to do this in a way, like if you did this in a government sanctioned way, it's like guys in reflective vests, guys wearing hard hats, cone zones spread out, whatever. I mean, in terms of danger, and I know we're no longer policing ourselves, but having people stand under giant old statues and have them hooked up to tow ropes and ripped down while other people are smashing them with hammers, someone's going to get fucked up pretty badly, right?
It's a little short-sighted.
It's, in terms of the government, like, I don't know. I know you're pretty hands-off at this point, but someone got fucked up badly by that thing coming down. How could it go any other way? Have a group of people at night who don't have any experience in the construction or destruction business just going at shit with a skateboard. And who the hell knew that the skateboard was going to be the new Swiss Army knife? I didn't know
right.
What you can't do with a skateboard. You can beat a reporter. You can vandalize a cop car. You can
throw it in the back of a windshield.
You can
it's a
use
skeleton key.
Take down a statue. Use it for transportation. I mean, that's pretty. Hey, Tony Hawk, right back at you, brother.
Well, and speaking of statues, obviously the Guar one's kind of funny, but when it comes to Britney Spears, they're talking about her getting a statue in Louisiana and Dolly Parton in Tennessee, which we talked about. These are that makes sense. I mean, apparently, according to reports, Britney Spears has given so much money to Louisiana relief efforts for different nonprofits. We know Dolly does the same thing in Tennessee. They give so much money back to the community. Why not put Britney Spears up as a good example of a Louisianan? I mean, a lot of the money she makes goes back into that community. It's not that far-fetched.
Well, why don't we just do what we do with the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which is like you got to buy your star. Like you got to put up some money. Now, here's my deal. Or what we do with like the stretch of highway, like Bette Midler adopts that stretch of Mulholland. She's in charge of keeping it clean. You know, she's going to pay for its maintenance. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do a thing where we go, these statues, we do like a celebrity auction. The statues are all gone. The bases remain. We will put up the celebrity or non-celebrity, whoever raises the most money. That money will all go to the school system, or that money will all go to the inner city or the food banks or whatever it is. But whoever and whatever. It could be Barbara Streisand cutting a check, or it could just be some unknown guy who's an orthodontist who happens to have a lot of family money. Whoever cuts the biggest check, we shall put your likeness in bronze on top of that monument. And then later on, in 14 years, when the kids find it problematic, they can tear it down.
Replace it. Yeah.
Right. But either way, let's do a bidding war. And we'll get all that money, and we'll put it right into the school system.
Yeah. It's like a less dirty version of the lottery.
Mm-hmm. And we'll vet you like we're kind of talking about with vanity license plates. Mm. Like we'll look in your past a little bit, find if there are any yearbook pictures of you in a Klan hood. You know what I mean? Like we'll do a light vetting to make sure nothing's hanging around on the internet.
Yeah, that's the whole point of taking these statues down. No Klan hoods.
Right. We'll do a little vet. We'll make sure you're clean. If you're clean, we'll do it. I don't know. It's like the FBI does that. You want to be an FBI agent? All right. Let's see if you've ever done anything. Once you pass a couple of those drug tests, then we'll put you in the hopper, and then may the highest bidder win. And we'll make the statue, and we'll leave it up to you. You could be on a horse. You could be on a horse that's rearing back. You could be standing nobly. You could be holding planting a flag. We'll leave it up to you. We'll have
you could be looking out into middle distance.
We'll have different motifs. That's right.
That's good. Potsy having a rough year. Happy Days alum Anson Williams has reportedly filed for divorce from his wife for the second time in 10 months. Same wife. Second time filing. The actor who obviously played Warren Potsy Weber.
What?
Did you know his name was Warren Weber on Happy Days?
No, but
Potsy Weber?
No, I probably don't remember that coming up, but you had to have kind of a square name. I was thinking about it the other day. In sitcoms, they would have that name like Myron. Myron was like the nerdy name, and so you'd go with Dutch. I think Cobretti's first name is Marion. So the great Sylvester Stallone, and that's Marion Cobretti. Don't call him Marion. It's Cobra now. But no, I didn't know Ralph Mouth.
Warren Weber.
Or Potsy. Sorry, I was thinking of Ralph Mouth. Yeah.
Ralph Mouth, the other one. So he filed divorce paperwork in L.A. Last week, according to TMZ. Anson has been married to his wife Jackie for over 30 years, and Anson's latest filing comes just 9 months after he filed for the divorce the first time in September. So he's 70. He cited irreconcilable differences in his initial filing. Anson first went down the divorce road on September 11th, and by October 1st, he was back in court trying to dismiss it. So
hold on a second.
The question would be why? Yeah.
There is a jump the shark moment in a series that introduced us all to the concept of jumping the shark, Fonzie jumping the shark. Happy Days jumped the shark, not when Fonzie jumped the shark, but when they started a band and Anson Williams was the lead singer of the band. His hair got hair dried. You know, they went from the 50s hair to the 70s hair, and then he started singing. I don't know if you guys remember they had a band.
I remember that.
One Day at a Time. jumped the shark when they started singing as well. Like here's what happens. At a certain point, they have success, and it's season 4, and the show's successful. So the chick or the guy who's in the show goes, "Hey man, I'd like to do some singing." And they go, "Yeah, that has nothing to do with your character, and we never brought it up before." And they're like, "Hey, we're getting great ratings. I'm going to start singing, and I'm going to start blow drying my hair." And they go, "Well, wait a minute. This is Milwaukee, 1955." And they go, "Yeah, I don't care.
No.
It's 1979. I'm going to get my dick sucked after we tape tonight. So I'm not going to get the crew cut with the pomade in it. I'm just going to start blow drying my hair." And if you look at Anson and Ralph Mouth, they all started blow drying their hair, and they started a band. And what's her name started singing, and One Day at a Time.
Valerie Bertinelli?
No, sorry, her sister. I can't.
Mackenzie Phillips?
Mackenzie Phillips. Yeah, she started.
Wow.
She started singing a cop out song, which is "Knock on Wood." It's a cop out rock and roll. You better knock on wood. Yeah, baby. It's a song anyone could kind of sing. It's not that. It's no blood on the plow and the rain on the scarecrow.
Rain on the scarecrow.
Right.
Well, if you're remotely curious like I was and had to do some digging on, but why? Why did he decide to get divorced again? He said they wanted to stay together for the kids, continue to live separately, but just not be divorced, all for the kids. And after giving that a few months, the adult children.
I like when people throw out the weirdest scenario possible and then say for the kids.
After giving that a try for a couple of months, he said, "No dice. I can't even do this. We got to end this." They are getting divorced.
Did he start directing or something? Like what?
He's a prolific television director.
Yeah, I can tell you. I can tell you in the early 90s, he definitely came to Kansas City and was definitely casting something I auditioned for. So I know he was doing that around that time.
Oh, really?
He was directing. Yeah. He would come to Kansas City and, look for talent.
Still got to suck because Ron, who am I trying to think of? Who's Ron?
You've given us a lot to work with.
It's Ron Howard.
Ron Howard?
Sorry, I gave you the Ron part of the Ron Howard. It's got to suck when
director, Happy Days.
Ron Howard goes on and becomes Ron Howard. You know what I mean? Like it'd be like, I don't know, it'd be like if you did a show and your partner went on to be the executive producer of the Emmys and host the Emmys. You know what I mean? And you were doing
it'd be like that nightmare scenario.
You were doing like a pod cart somewhere in the deep valley. You know what I mean? Like it would sting. You know?
Yeah, but you should be so lucky to be Anson Williams. Think about Erin Moran.
That's right.
Very tough stuff.
Oh God, she's alive, right?
Is she? I mean, I know she was not well.
She was not well 10 years ago, but I hadn't heard that she died.
Let's see.
But in this whole,
she died.
2017.
She was Joni?
Yeah.
Yep, she was
pretty
Joni.
Tragic.
Yeah.
Never seen an episode of Happy Days.
Wow.
It was fun in its own way.
What a ringing endorsement.
Well, I mean, nothing, when you're talking about The Office or Seinfeld or things like that, things don't hold up to that standard comedically, anymore. But it was like a little slice of Milwaukee in the 50s, and it was sort of fun for me to watch because, it'd be snowing outside, and it was a Christmas one, and it was like, they're going down to the malt shop and 22 Skidoo, and you wear, I have a Letterman sweater and stuff like that. The stuff seems so quaint to me growing up in North Hollywood at the time.
Yeah, that was always on after school. The block was Happy Days, Brady Bunch, and Family Ties. So watch all the school. Yep.
Well, I'm watching the shit out of The Love Boat. I'll tell you that right now.
So we've heard.
And I got Dr. Drew watching it with me, and that we bond over The Love Boat almost every week now, and it is awesome. It is just watch the beginning. The beginning of every episode is everyone being welcomed aboard the ship, and Doc is parked there, and Gopher and Isaac and everyone's just parked at the ship. Because, when you enter a cruise ship, the bartender's always standing at the end of the
we've been on
gangplank.
4 cruises.
We've experienced it many times.
You're the ship's physician and the bartender. They're always standing there, and they know your name,
Sure.
and they're always aware of who you are. And Doc is always there scouting out fresh talent. Like, here's a chick I could roofie and bang before we get to Puerto Vallarta. Like, he's literally explaining what he's going to do to these chicks once they get at sea with them, which is such a bizarre concept. And the fact that the Princess Cruises had to sign off on the entire concept of Doc standing by the gangway as people were entering the ship, commenting on the chicks' looks and hoping he'd have a good cruise with them.
Forgive my ignorance. It was a named cruise line, Princess Cruises?
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen an episode of that show.
I didn't know that. Me either.
It was...
That's crazy.
It had to be done in association with them, or it wasn't like an Oliver Stone football movie where he makes up a bunch of teams.
That's what I assumed it would be.
Yeah.
No, they would show like Princess Cruise. I don't know. Find me the opening of the Love Boat and make sure that Bill Cosby's on it, presiding over the Bunny Olympics. Okay, Max Zapata? Now get on that internet and Google me right.
You got it.
All right, find me the opening of the Love Boat. All right, opening for the Love Boat, Max Zapata. I'm pretty sure they just show the Princess Cruise. Mike Connor's in this one. Love. Jane Kennedy. She was hot.
Exciting and new.
Bobby Short, the singer.
We're expecting you.
McLean Stevenson. Gloria Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt.
Robert Vaughn. Pacific
Princess.
There it is, logo and everything.
Let it flow.
Yeah.
It floats back to
Yeah, they did the whole thing it was like an advertisement for Princess Cruises. All right, we got it.
Adam, lest we forget, apparently the Happy Days did not just launch the directing careers of Ron Howard and Anson Williams. Don't forget that's where Penny Marshall started.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right.
Before Laverne and Shirley.
The Jane Kennedy was a super beautiful black sports reporter. Was doing those sort of weekend sports shows in NFL. She was attached to NFL sort of before Aaron, what's her name, was up in there. She was like the hot Aaron Andrews. Yeah. Super beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And she, I think, had a bootleg porn video. She may have been like one of the first like weird outed porn bootleggy. Somebody took it and pushed it out there like way before the internet. She had one of those situations. It's weird that Aaron Andrews sort of had a version of that. Is there some story? Am I making that up? Max Bad? Oh, it was on the cover of Playboy, by the way.
Gorgeous.
As well. Yeah,
there's
dominate the
there's
Olympics.
a sex tape.
What's the story? And was it with an actor named, like a black actor named Leon something or
Leon
something?
Kennedy.
Leon Kennedy, right.
Oh.
He was a kind of semi-famous black actor in the 70s or 80s. And like, what's the story say?
This is from TMZ. Leon Kennedy, who co-starred in a real-life sex tape with legendary sportscaster Jane Kennedy back in the 80s, is suing the people behind Ebony magazine, claiming they falsely ID'd him as the man who leaked the infamous footage to the media.
It was long before the internet.
The sex tape featured Leon and Jane is widely considered the granddaddy of the celebrity sex tape.
I told you.
Since Leon was a big actor at the time and Jane was a commentator on NFL Today, they divorced in the early 80s, and years later the sex tape mysteriously surfaced.
I don't feel like things surfacing is that mysterious, though.
Yeah, Leon claims he was wrongly fingered as the source of the leak.
Okay.
Yeah, and speaking of fingered...
Gina was wrongly fingered.
If you part of that sex tape, part of the act of that sex tape involved more than a finger. It may have involved the whole hand.
I'm looking at it.
Are
doing
you?
my due diligence.
Are
I
you?
am.
Call the boy into the room so he can learn about life.
This is it's grainy.
Right.
It's not this is definitely from yesteryear, but it's hard to tell. Did she know there was a camera?
I don't know.
Did she know this was being filmed? Because
what's going on in the film?
Well, right now it's reverse cowgirl with a couple of fingers in the back.
Uh-huh.
And she doesn't seem to be no one's playing to anything in particular. So I'm wondering but she is putting on quite a show.
Well, this was kind of just a little past that Bob Crane era where you couldn't really sneak the mini cameras into the room. It was a tripod era,
Right.
There was cables to be run,
Right. Lighting to be set up.
All right, Gina, come on, be professional now.
I can't. I'm sorry. I got totally caught up. Let's watch something I've been meaning to show you for a while. A bricklaying robot. His name is Hadrian X, and he's broken his own record for speed, which is now up to 200 concrete blocks per hour. His last record was 150 blocks per hour. And I just wanted you to see this, how this thing worked and get your thoughts on this. Because, I know you've done some bricklaying. And that might be a job of the past if this guy keeps going. Is 200 bricks an hour impressive to you?
I don't know a ton about masonry. I mean, technically, this would be block setting versus brick laying. I think.
Oh boy.
They don't even use bricks anymore. Essentially, they use blocks. Concrete blocks or cement blocks. So he's doing blocks, and I guess he's putting mortar on there, which would be a Type S mortar if you're playing along at home. And, this is one of those things where, it's not a new thing in the sense that when I worked for A&B Closets over there in Burbank, California, not too far from where we are now. But Tom, the guy who ran the shop, he went, so there's this kind of decision you have to make, which is he bought a bunch of equipment. And imagine you're running a business where you're building a closet company business, and you could buy a contractor saw at Sears, like a Craftsman table saw, and pay guys to run this stuff through the table saw. Cortron and melamine was vinyl coated white shit. Like when you go into your closet and you see it's prefabbed closet, that's what it was. And you could hire the same guy to iron on edge banding onto the edge where it was raw. And you could hire guys to use a template and do holes one at a time to do multi-holes for adjustable shelves and blah, blah, blah. Or you could spend $100,000 on equipment and get a multi-hole driller and an edge bander and a panel saw that was all deluxe and everything. And so you go, well, isn't this bricklayer, isn't this block setter going to put all the poor $20 an hour Mexican guys who are doing it around here out of business? And the answer is, not really, because that thing is $1.7 million. So, yeah, you're going to save a lot of money, big picture, if you...
Over the course of 85 years.
You got a bunch of guys you're paying $19 an hour to set these things by hand, but that initial investment is quite large. It's not that much different, sadly, in 2020. You start talking, you have serious conversations about going solar, with your house. I don't know, Brian, if you've had any of those conversations.
Yes.
You have those 100%. Conversations, and at some point, you're looking at your wife going, it's $86,000 to get this thing done. And they go, yeah, but over the course of the next 700 years, you're going to save. And it's yeah, they're going to
owe you.
That's a pretty big chunk of change to put out initially. I think for my house, it was with the battery backup and, $150,000. And you're like, Or we could just pay our $900 a month for the rest of our lives. So until this stuff gets to the point, whether it's solar or whether it's block stacking, that piece of equipment, if that thing gets down to the price of a used Camry, we're in business. But when that thing's, $286,000, then the poor people that do set the blocks will still be in business.
They're safe.
All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
That was the news with Gina Grad.